but it is a statement as opposed to a question. Finally, the research question states the expectation in question format. We will spend a reasonable amount of time working on your problem statement, and it will more than likely go through several edits before we have it to the point that we are really satisfied with it. But once we get that nailed, the rest of our project is very easy to determine its scope and its depth by how we have written it. And so we will spend significant time working on making sure that that is in really, really good order. The next part of Chapter 1 are some boundaries that we place in the research design. We cannot research the whole world. We cannot determine everything that you could ever possibly want to know about your topic. And so we need to set down some assumptions and some limitations. We will then begin this particular subtitle, and it is a subtitle that you will have, with this statement. The following assumptions were recognized for the study. Definition. Assumptions are basic, accepted truths that help establish direction and support the procedure to be used. The definition that I have just given to you is for your understanding of this part of your project. It is not going to be integrated into your final document. And so your notes that you have serve as a research model for you, but it does not go into your final document. One assumption that we make, since you will eventually have a survey instrument, is that meaningful data can be collected by the use of a survey. That particular statement will be in all of your research projects. You may then have any other assumptions that would be helpful for the reader to understand your research. For example, an assumption is that your subjects, that is the people that are participating in your study, the subjects possess adequate background to provide the information needed. And so, for example, if nutrition were the topic, the subject completing the survey instrument would have to know enough about nutrition to accurately answer the question. If you ask someone that knew absolutely nothing about fats and carbohydrates and nutrients and vitamins and minerals to respond to the survey instrument, the best that they would be able to do would be to give you a yes or no that they know about that information or they do not. Again, this is an example for you. It will not be in your research project. You will have a minimum of 2 assumptions. The first one, of course, will be that meaningful data can be collected by the use of a survey instrument. And then any other ones that may be relevant. Again, that puts some boundaries around our research so that we don't get too far out into the field. The limitations provide a second kind of boundary. We begin with stating the following limitations were recognized for the studies. Limitations place restrictions on the study. For example, if you are doing a study that only deals with women, then you might say that the sample gender, only females participated in the study. So right away, you've narrowed and put some parameters. So you would know that you, if you're passing the survey instruments out in your Sunday school class or in a mixed group of people, you would know to skip the males. A second limitation that is often stated and would be stated in your study would be a time framework. For example, you might say this study was conducted in the spring of 2015 or 2016. And so only the people that responded to your survey instrument in the spring of 2015 would be represented in your study. You may have any limit or restriction that is used in the research design or procedure that may influence the results. Anything that you think that could best explain your study or would put parameters around your study, this is where you need to do it. Again, this particular statement, any limit or restriction that is used in the research design or procedure that may influence the results, this is not included. But here are some examples of some limitations. Let's say that you are doing a study on the importance of eating breakfast. And as you review the literature, you find the most influential and extensive research done on the nutritional importance of breakfast was in the 1950s. That's a long time ago. And so we would probably say that changes in nutritional information may have rendered these studies obsolete. So we focus on what is available, but then we define whether or not it is useful for this study. The second limitation is one that, again, will be placed in your study because it is always true when you use a survey instrument. The research instrument restricted the study. Individual subjects were not able to express themselves in the manner that they preferred. If you've ever filled out any kind of an attitudinal scale on a scale of, say, 1 to however long the scale went, there are times that you may have felt like you wanted to circle between a number. It's really 3.5 or 3.8 rather than it's not 3 and it's not 4. You really wanted to be able to put in the middle, but that's not an option that you're doing. And especially if it's computer generated, you know when you fill out the computer generated ones, it will bounce it back and not allow you to proceed until you put a specific answer. And so the fact that the instrument is going to affect the way that the study is responded to is always a limitation. The scope of the study answers the actual focus on where the study is going to be conducted. And we'll answer several questions. How widely will the study be focused? If you are going to use, for example, members of a variety of churches, then it would be limited to those churches. If you are going to limit it to Southwestern, it would be limited to just this institution. And so we want to make a statement. The study was limited, I'm pulling that from our limitations, to women students enrolled at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, located in Fort Worth, Texas, during the spring 2025 semester. What have we done? We have put a location, we have put a time parameter. That is the scope of our study. Once we have a problem and purpose statement set, our research questions established, assumptions and limitations defined, scope of the study in place, the next critical part is a definition of terms. The definition of terms, in essence, is a little glossary that identifies terminology related to your study so that everyone reading the study knows exactly what you mean by key terms in the study. And so we will start our definition of terms section with the statement, the following definition of terms was deemed appropriate for this study.